Hello, good people. It's your friend Todd Shannon, data scientist, social commentator, getter of buckets. And I am glad to say that I have finally had the opportunity this weekend to watch the groundbreaking movie Sound of Freedom. Round of applause. Round of applause. Thank you for the filmmakers who created this movie. What did I think about the movie? First of all, there will be no spoilers. You might ask, was it a good movie? Well, let me just say this. A good movie is not the appropriate term to use. It's not the appropriate adjective to describe this movie. This movie is weighty. This movie is impactful. This movie is profound. Good is not the right adjective. Good implies that it was entertaining. And I would say, I don't think that if you understand the gravity of the situation that you can be, quote, entertained by this movie. I was not entertained by it, and nor should anyone be. But that doesn't mean that the movie was not engaging. It was artistically well done. The acting was great. Cinematography was amazing. But good is not the appropriate way to describe it. I 100% recommend that you go see it if you haven't. Very, very powerful. And what was the central theme of the movie was a line spoken by Tim Ballard, who was the person who the movie was based on, his life and his exploits in rescuing children. There's a line that he echoed that was, I think, encapsulates the entire movie, which is that God's children are not for sale. That resonates with me. I think that resonates with everyone. God's children are not for sale. While that resonates with everyone, I think it is less obvious why that is the case. We know intuitively that this is true, but we don't necessarily know how to articulate why it is the case. And I want to try to do that for a moment. I want to try to put some flesh on this. And I want us to try to understand how we got here as a people. How do we get to a place where it became common? It's become sort of an epidemic where it is prominent enough that a full-length feature film was made about it. And we have now identified it as one of the fastest growing criminal enterprises in the world. Well, let's just talk about the dignity of the human body, the human life in general, because there's an ironic paradox. I don't know if that's those two words. There's something ironic or there's something paradoxical about selling things. On the one hand, in any society, we know how much something is worth based on how much people are willing to pay for it, right? That's why we establish markets for things that we use and need in our society, from cars to houses to food. And then there are those important human elements that should never be sold. And basically, by dint of even making it available for sale, the very act of making it available for sale debases and devalues it. And I think that's paradoxical. On the one hand, we know how much things are worth by how much people are willing to pay for it. On the other hand, there are things that if we sell them, they become worthless. And that's because the things that are most valuable in our society are the things that cannot be sold. They are priceless. Children are at the top of that list. But what about other things? You ever wonder why people can't sell their own body parts? We know that there's a very, very significant need for healthy organs and things that can be donated. People need livers, people need hearts, people need, I don't know if they've advanced to this, so I don't know. Can you donate your eyeballs? I don't know. Certainly lungs, kidneys. I think I might have already said kidneys. But generally speaking, most of your major organs can be donated. What if we allowed people to sell their organs in a marketplace? What if there was like an eBay for body parts? You think that'd be a good idea? This is something that resonated with me when I heard them say, God's children are not for sale. There's another phrase that I believe God gave me that is equivalent or echoes the same principle, which is that the moral state of any society can be gauged by what they allow and do not allow to be sold. The moral state of any society can be gauged by what they allow and do not allow to be sold. And we don't allow people to sell their body parts because we recognize the dignity and the sanctity of the human body and the slippery slope that would put us on once we start to commoditize the body. We recognize this. I think this intuitively resonates with most people. However, there's an area of this that has not quite made the impact, or we haven't actually connected the dots in the way that we should, because although we won't allow people to sell their body parts, we will allow people to sell sex. And I'm not talking about children, because I think we already understand that that's way out of bounds, that's grotesquely immoral, which is the reason why this movie has been resonating with so many people. We intuitively are revolted by the idea of people taking advantage of small children and exploiting them for their own perverse sexual pleasure. But we do something that isn't that far from it right now. We are a society where we consume pornography and we buy and sell sexual pleasure like it's some bag of chips at the bodega. The question becomes, should sex be something that is sold? Well, technically, prostitution is mostly illegal in this nation. We still have been doing something that is directly adjacent to it, which is we have been selling digital. We have allowed for digital prostitution for years and years and years and years in the form of pornography. And most of this child sex trafficking activity, it starts, or a lot of it is happening because of the appetite for people to purchase that same digital sexual perverse pleasure on the internet. Except for people need more extreme versions of it once they become desensitized by the regular stuff. I am a firm believer that the pornography that is legal in our country is, in our society in general, not even only available and legal in our society, but in many cases and many times we make light of it. We act like it's normal and good and nothing to be. If you're a prude or something weird, if you don't think that the consumption of pornography is a good thing. But this slippery slope thing is a real thing. It's a real thing. You see, once we start commoditizing the human body in the form of sex, we have done something that I think not only should we not do, but I think it leads directly to the appetites that we have seen developed by people who participate in the exploitation of children. Now, you might say, you are making, this is far too big a leap. I know, I hear what you're saying right now, but you want to say, hey, if an adult wants to do that with another adult, that's their business, that's totally different. You see, I beg to differ. I do think that it is different, but I think it's a difference in degree, not a difference in kind. And I want to explain to you why. As I said before, the mere fact that we allow for sexual pleasure to be sold devalues it. There are some things that should not be sold in any circumstance. Think about all of the things that are really important for human endeavors. All of the kind of the intangible things that make human cultures and societies. the thing that provide us with a common unity, which is where we get the word community. Things like loyalty, trust, friendship, companionship. Are we going to start selling those things? They have a lot of utility. People need them as much as they need, quote unquote, sex. I don't know why I put sex in scare quotes. They actually need them more than they need sex. But why don't we make those things for sale? We don't make those things for sale because by making them for sale, we destroy them and all their real value. I think we've commoditized sex to such a way that we forgot that it's the one thing that gives us the power to create other human beings. That's not a small deal, my friend. We literally make other people through sex. Yet we buy it like it's some cheap widget made in a factory in China. Here's one more proof that sex should not be sold because it is something that is fundamentally different. Anything that can be sold can be stolen. And typically things that are sold are stolen for the same reason that they're stolen, or they're sold, I should say, because they have value. But they have utilitarian value. They have transactional value. So these things are not really a part of us. They're not attached to us. They just kind of make our lives easier. Anything from a cell phone to a bicycle. Someone stole your cell phone. The degree to which you would be upset would be the degree to which it would cost you to replace it. What would it cost you to replace it? How convenient would it be to replace it? What about the information on it? If you had your data backed up on the cloud and you could, make an insurance claim and get a brand new phone for just a couple bucks, then someone stealing your cell phone is a minor inconvenience. Same thing with your car, same thing with anything that gets stolen from you can almost all of it can be replaced. What happens when people steal sex? What do we call that? We call it sexual assault. That's what we call it. And how do we feel about that? Is it a minor inconvenience if someone steals it from us? Is it, if a young woman is sexually assaulted, does she says, oh, well, it's fine. I'm still capable of having normal relations. So it's not that big a deal. It's not like he took my body from me and permanently kept. He just kind of barred it. It's not that big a deal. Does anybody talk like that? Absolutely not. It doesn't even matter if the person is someone who's a prostitute or someone who we consider to be an immoral woman or a person who sleeps around. If someone decides to steal sex from them, which is sexual assault, we see that as the grave evil that it is. And oftentimes the ones who suffer such a fate are completely crippled by it emotionally, despite their physical capacity to recover. And why do we feel differently about that? Why isn't it just a minor inconvenience like having a phone stolen or having your shoes stolen? Because the body should be sanctified. And the inherent value of the human body is different. We shouldn't allow for sex to be sold for the same reason. We shouldn't allow for kidneys to be sold. And that is the same reason why sex, when it's commoditized, leads to this decadent perversion. We have cheapened sex by allowing it to be sold. And thus, we have opened the door for people to develop the perverse appetites that they have developed, the unnatural and perverse appetites, when they derive some sort of weird pleasure from a child. But it starts with the commoditization of sex itself. And I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, I am not saying that if you use pornography, then that makes you a pedo. I am not saying that. What I am saying is that the difference in these two things are a difference in degree, not a difference in kind. It is certainly more grotesque and more evil to do one than the other, but don't think that they are completely two different things in two different categories, because that's not true. They start with the devaluing of sex itself by selling it, by treating it like it's not sacred. And so, friends, I think we should think deeply about these things, and I think we should remember that in the end, this is about treating each other with dignity and respect and recognizing the value of the human being and the human body. God's children are not for sale. And I hope you remember that, friends. If you like this content, please like, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend. If you disagree with me, I'd like to hear from you. And if you do agree, let me know how it helped you. Till next time, God bless you.